Hey everyone, welcome back to the Gathering Moss YouTube channel. This is Phil again, and I appreciate you joining me today. I have, in the last 2 months, dove deep into the Hoya hole. And I have quite a few Hoyas in my collection and growing, it seems like daily. But a lot of these Hoyas that I've picked up have come because of just one source, and that I blame on Miro. Basie Plants on YouTube. And if you don't know who Basie Plants Miro is, what rock have you been living under? Because he's just the best YouTuber out there, and he has 350, 400 Hoyas. And every time a new video comes out, he showcases one that I just know I have to have. So today, we are going to go over 6 plants that I have in my collection, because of Miro. And one plant that I have in my collection that he will never have in his collection because he absolutely hates it. So let's dive right in. Okay, so the first plant I have in my collection, because Miro said I needed it, is a very, very common Hoya. It's the Hoya bertonii af variegated. And when I received this plant, none of the leaves were showing any variegation. So, hey everyone, just a brief editing note here. I learned after the video that Hoya bertonii af leaves tend to come in variegated and fade out over time. Miro had that in one of his videos, and it seems like an absolute ripoff to me. Why would you do that to me, bertonii af? I want your leaves to stay variegated. Anyways, back to the video. It had, I think, the leaves up to about here when I got it, and it has added all of these since then. And as you can tell, we've really started picking up the variegation, and it's a really, really pretty plant when you get the variegation on there. It can be a little bit boring, I guess, before then, but once it picks up that variegation, it gets really pretty, and then you can sun stress that variegation on the plant, and it really gets even more beautiful. The leaves on this one, I'm sure most of you know because you probably have a bertonii af in your collection, are very stiff and very fuzzy, and you could just sit around and rub the leaves all day long, but we won't do that. But it's a very common plant, but it's one of the more beautiful to me variegated Hoyas, just because the variegation, it's pretty steady from leaf to leaf, and then it gets that beautiful sun stress that turns it pink, like this guy right here, if you can see that, if I can get it. Let's see how pink that is. And it's just a very pretty plant. It seems to grow, at least to me, a little slowly, but maybe it's just picking up steam as it goes. I have it growing in our fill dirt and in a self-watering pot. It kind of helps me with watering a little bit because I don't have to concentrate so much on watering all of these Hoyas that I all of a sudden have in my collection. So I'm enjoying the self-watering aspect. I tend to fill it about once a week, maybe a little bit less than that depending on the weather and stuff. Have it on this little trellis that I bought off a local vendor here in Fort Wayne. One of the few that you're going to see that are on a really nice trellis. This one she built just out of an idea I have where it's a continuous circle in the middle. But this is, once again, the Hoya bertonii af variegated, and it's one of Miro's favorites. Okay, next up we have a plant that's relatively new to me. I've had it maybe a month, a little more than a month. It came to me with a couple of nodes, 4 leaves, and since that time it's grown 1, 2, 3, 4 extra leaves. It was really slow to get started, but once it got going, it's really starting to kick out those leaves. This is the Hoya sulawesiana. I'm going to struggle with a lot of these names, but this is a sulawesiana, and it has very long, elongated, thin leaves, very rigid, and they have a very pretty veining pattern in them. The veins don't stick up, but they're recessed. So it makes for a very interesting pattern on the leaves. This is one of the older leaves, and then this is what the new ones look like when they come in. And it's just a beautiful leaf. And I really agree with Miro on this one. You really don't know what you're missing if you don't have one. They're not terribly uncommon, but the price is still relatively high on these. So I'm guessing not everyone has them in their collection. It's growing once again in fill dirt. That's our product, Gathering Moss. We make that, and it's a mix of tree fern fiber and some other things, which Hoyas, in my opinion anyways, tend to love. For some reason they really love the tree fern fiber. My own creation, this is self-watering. I have a solo cup on the outside, an 18-ounce solo cup, and then on the inside is a cup I got off of Amazon. It's 12 ounces, and it fits perfectly on top of that solo cup, which I absolutely love because I've bought a few different of the cover pots, cover cups, and nothing fits perfectly on top. They're either too small and they want to slide inside, or they sit up on the top and wiggle around all the times. But this one sits perfectly on the top. This is another cup. This one I bought off of Amazon. I forget the name, but we can put a link in the description for that. If you're looking for a self-watering setup that is relatively inexpensive, this is a good setup for you because it's really pretty cheap. I burn holes in the bottom of the inner cup with a soldering iron, and then I use a string, a watering string, down through there to set up the self-watering aspect of it. Works really well, and once again, it's just great for me because of the fit. And I've tried different brands of the 18-ounce cups, generics. I don't even know the names of the other ones, but I've tried different ones. I think Glad makes an 18-ounce cup. But anyways, the solo one's the only one that's worked for me, and it's got a square bottom, so it's a little unusual. And it came in this nice, pretty blue, and I really like that. So a lot of mine are transitioning to this because, once again, I like the self-watering, and this is such a great setup. Once again, I'm going to butcher this name again, but this is the Hoya sulawesiana. A really pretty Hoya with the elongated leaves and the recessed veining. It's just a beautiful Hoya. So once again, one of Miro's favorites, and it has become one of mine. The next Hoya we have on our list is the Hoya pachiclata.
People call it pachiclata. It ain't right. Learn her name.
I'm sorry, Miro. It's not the Hoya pachiclata. It's the Hoya quintuplinervis. Quintuplinervis. Not pachiclata. Quintuplinervis. And this is a relatively new one to me, and I bought it off a site on Facebook, and I had no idea what it would look like. I'd seen it in his video, but for some reason his leaves were a lot smaller than this, and this thing is going to be massive. These leaves are so thick and so I don't know how to put it. They're just so rigid. It's not what I expected. It's a beautiful plant, and it has wonderful variegation. It wasn't what I expected. I didn't expect it to be quite this big, and I'd never really ran across a Hoya with a leaf with this feel. So it's really kind of different. Once again, they're really big, as you can tell. It's almost as big as my palm on one leaf. I haven't had it very long, so I don't know how it grows. It hasn't grown anything new yet. It is rooted. I think I've had it about 3 weeks. Actually, I just got it the 1st of February. So relatively new. I really haven't seen any new growth on it. Like I said, it has rooted, which it wasn't rooted when I got it, even though it was a 4-leaf cutting. So I'm just waiting to see what it's going to do. But this thing is going to be massive. It's heavy, even at this point. So it's going to be interesting how you maintain this and how big of a pot it's going to take to keep it from being tipsy if I try to trellis it or anything else like that. Once again, self-watering, the same solo cup setup that I had on the other one with the inner clear cup. I like doing it with the clear cup on the inside just because then I can pull it up like this and take a look at the roots. But at the same time, with the cover pot on there, it's dark, so I'm not getting the algae buildup. You can if you have just clear pots by themselves. So it's a really nice setup. Seems to be enjoying it in here in tree fern fiber. Like I said, it is rooted. I don't know if we can take a look, but there are roots showing along the outside of the cup. Let me see if I can see them, like right in here. There's some roots going on. If you can see that or not, but there's some roots right there. She's growing. So it seems like with as big as the leaves are, that this one's probably going to take a while to grow. It's probably going to spit out leaves relatively slowly. I guess we'll see as we go along. If you have the subquintuplinervis, maybe you can put a comment down below and tell me how yours is growing. Are your leaves this big? Because I really didn't expect it to be this large. And to be honest, I'm a little bit scared of what this thing is going to grow into. So I guess we'll see. But this, once again, is the Hoya subquintuplinervis. So we're going to go on from the subquintuplinervis, and we're going to move from the big chunky leaves of that plant to a thinner leafed Hoya. It's not as thin-leaved as like the danimensis and that variety, but it is a lot thinner than most of my plants, my Hoyas. And this one is the Hoya griffithii, and this is the griffithii from China, so it's a relatively thin leaf. I've seen griffithii as a bigger leaf, shorter, but this one is a really thinned leaf and elongated leaf with some really nice splash on it, and it's really gained more splash as it's grown longer, as you can tell by the leaves up here at the top. It's just a beautiful splash on this, and it's how I like the splash. Some of the ones that get a ton of splash aren't as interesting to me as ones that look like this. And I've really come to appreciate this plant. It's one of my favorites, and it's a beautiful leaf. It's a little bit ruffled on the outside, and then it has a little bit of veining that you could see on the leaf. Comes out relatively quickly after a vine is shot out. I know with some Hoyas, they shoot out a ton of vine and then they start putting leaves on. With this one, it seems to shoot out just a couple of nodes and then it starts putting out new leaves. So like you can see on this one, it has new growth coming in up here and then just a short bit of stem before it gets up to the next leaf that's coming out. It had shot off this one, and I think it was pointed down, so that tip died off. It's something I've learned with Hoya is that if the stem points downwards for long enough, that part of the stem will just die off, and then another stem comes out, and then it tends to point upwards on its own. Which is kind of interesting. It must be a natural kind of instinct thing that they have. But and then that one will grow out, and then like this one has new leaves coming in. If you can see that right over there. Nice little tiny leaves coming in. But they'll get at least as big as these, and look just as pretty. Once again, growing this one in fill dirt, which is once again a tree fern based product. We put some other things in there, but tree fern is the main ingredient with any of our potting mixes. We feel that's the best substrate for plants to grow in. I've grown in coconut fiber, I've grown in soil, but this is by far the best at actually doing something for the plant. You can add, I do add fertilizer with every watering, so every time I water my plants, they're getting fertilized. But it's just a great thing for the plants to have, to be living in tree fern fiber. They just really seem to grow great roots in tree fern fiber. So once again, this is the Hoya griffithii from China with splash. I think that's it. So we'll take a look at the next one. Okay, so we've went over 4 plants so far that Miro has in his collection, and because of that, I had to have them. And we looked at the bertonii variegated, we looked at the sulawesiana, we looked at the subquintuplinervis, and we looked at the griffithii from China. And the next one is one of my favorites, and I was so amazed when I got this plant because of the texture of the leaves. And that is, it's a caudata, and this is the Hoya caudata gold. And if you watch Miro's videos, you know that this is the one that he says is the best caudata, and I have to agree with him. I have the Sumatra, I have the big green leaves. I'm looking to get the silver, but I don't have that one yet. But this is the gold, and I tell you, the leaves on this are just amazing, and I don't even have very many of them yet. When I first got the plant, it had these 2 bottom leaves, and if you can see, there isn't much splash on those leaves. But then the next set of leaves that came out, look at the splash on those guys. Isn't that just beautiful? And it's just a little bit ruffled on the edges, and it's very rigid, and there's just enough fuzz on there to just make it feel unreal. It feels to me like a fake houseplant. Back in the day when I was a kid, they would put out these houseplants with the plastic stems, and then they would do something with the texture of the leaves just to make it feel like it was something real, which it wasn't. And this one feels just kind of like that, where it's just a little bit unreal, the texture, but it's just got enough of a fuzz just to make it so interesting. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful Hoya. I can't wait to grow it out a little bit more. My tendency these days is to chop them pretty quickly because we want to get them into our shop, because we do sell Hoyas on our shop, gatheringmoss.shop. Our Hoya section has been growing, and we're just trying to up our population in that gatheringmoss.shop. But this one, I bought a couple plants on purpose, a couple cuttings. I tend to buy everything as a cutting. I don't like to buy full plants. I think the only one that I really have that was a full plant when I got it was the bertonii. And that one, it was just because it was relatively inexpensive for as much of a plant as I was getting. But I tend to buy cuttings, and this one's grown out this much. The other one I have is even smaller than this one, and it's growing really slowly. But Miro had warned of that in his videos. The caudata gold is a very slow grower, and I have to agree, this one is very, very slow. But it's rewarding because you get leaves that look like this. And as you can tell, it's still growing. The vine's still growing. I try to keep it upright so we don't lose any of the stem. But once again, just a beautiful, beautiful Hoya growing in our Chunky Max mix for this one. And it just loves it. It's rooted in so well, and just growing. I'd like to say it's growing in leaps and bounds, but it definitely is not. It's growing at its own pace, and Just can't wait for it to get a few more leaves on there to show off that wonderful splash. But once again, this is the Hoya Caudata Gold, one of Miro's favorite caudatas, actually his favorite caudata, and one that I highly recommend. Okay, so the last plant on the list of plants that I have in my collection, because Miro told me I needed them, this is a very rare Hoya. I only found it from one seller in the United States, but it is one that Miro has in his collection, and he says it's a little bit more, you can get it a little bit easier in Europe. Whereas here, like I said, I found one seller of this in the US, and there's probably more people that have it, but they're not selling. So this is the Hoya migueldavidii, the migueldavidii, and this is a plant that's out of the Philippines, and it's closely related to Hoya loheri, but it has leaves that are a little bit like bertonii. They're fuzzy, very, very short-haired fuzzy, very rigid, very, very rigid. They don't feel real, and there's just not a lot to the leaves. There's no veining, or very little veining, but they form a perfect leaf almost. I don't know if you can see how perfect those leaves are, but it's just a nice perfect oval. It's a little folded over, and then on the back you get a nice purple burgundy color, almost a brown. They don't sun stress well. I have them in my cabinet, my Fabricor IKEA cabinet, and I don't like them so much when they start to sun stress, but they also seem to like the extra light to keep growing. So like I said, I have it in my cabinet. This is also in a self-watering pot that I bought off Temu, I believe. Just a nice little setup with a cup and then a self-watering string with a water level indicator on the back here. Growing on one of my well-made trellises that I'm sure Miro would love if he ever saw this. Yeah, well, it works, and Hoyas tend to grow up fairly well. It's a little flimsy. I use a number 10 or a 10 gauge copper wire that I get from Home Depot, and just make a U-shaped. I cut a piece of copper that's 36 inches long, and then I tend to have a trellis that's about 18 inches long when I fold it over, somewhere in that vicinity. And so it makes them kind of uniform. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but for home growth like this, I don't need a showpiece. I just need something that the Hoya is going to grow up and not keep losing its tips. So once again, this is Hoya migueldavidii from the Philippines, a really nice, rare Hoya. Look for this one soon in our Gathering Moss.shop. I'm going to be cutting this soon and trying to get a few more plants out of it and see if I can't get a few of them posted on in our shop. I know it's rare, so hopefully you'll want to add this one to your collection. Once again, because Miro says we need it, and we do. It's beautiful and it grows really, really perfectly. So why wouldn't you want it? Hoya migueldavidii. So we've come to the point in the video where I get to show off a plant that Miro absolutely hates. And if you watch Miro, you know there are a lot of plants that Miro really hates, Hoyas that he absolutely hates. I can think of a few others that, like the Lauterbachii, I believe, that he's said some very unkind words about. Maybe have said something about hoping it had a very terrible death. But you know, it's the plant world, and not every plant grows the same for everybody. So, but this one I know is on his list. I've heard him say it on multiple videos, and it's one that I believe was the first Hoya I ever purchased, and that is Hoya australis lisa. And I haven't seen the video, but there must be a video out there somewhere where Miro says what he hates about this Hoya, but he does not like this Hoya, and I'm not sure if it's because it doesn't grow for him, or he doesn't like the looks of it, or what it is, but it's to the point of he despises it. So I tend to think it's a really beautiful Hoya with really beautiful variegation. Let me tell you, it has not been a fast grower. I've owned this Hoya probably 6 months, and this is 2 separate plants in here. I bought it as single node cuttings, and neither one of them has grown very fast, and they've had spider mites. It's one of the few Hoyas so far. I hate talking because I know it's coming, and spring's coming, and blow bugs are coming. But this is one of the few Hoyas that I've had spider mites on. I was lucky in that I had beneficials at the time, or on order at the time, and when they got here I put them immediately on the plant, and within a day they were eradicated. I find the cucumaris is great at taking care of any spider mite issues. So, because you know, if you own alocasias, you know that at some point you're going to have spider mites on those alocasias, and if I put cucumaris on the alocasia, it's going to take care of it pretty quickly. But once again, this is one of the few that's had that, and I don't know that slowed it down maybe a bit, but they weren't on there that long. I think it's just a slow grower, and once again, the leaves don't tend to have a ton of green on them, so I find that when plants like that, like the Crimson Princess that's intervariegated, that one to me grows really slowly, and I believe once again that's because of lack of green in the leaves, but that's just my opinion. It may not be true. But once again, this is to me a beautiful Hoya. It has wonderful variegation. I like how varied the variegation comes in on the leaf. It doesn't look the same every one. It's probably why I love ficus, especially like the Tineke. I like how it's almost like an artist's paintbrush painted these leaves. Just a beautiful variegation, in my opinion. Sun stress is lovely. I love the look of the sun stress on these. It gets a nice purple hue to the leaves, and they tend to sun stress fairly easily. Once again, growing this in our fill dirt is really good for Hoya. They really tend to love it. This thing's full of roots. I can see roots all down through there, even with the algae buildup, because once again we have a clear pot, so there's a lot of algae in there. But it's growing well. As you can tell, there's new growth up here on this stem, and then over on this stem, it has new growth here, and then actually there's new growth over here. So it's picking up from a couple of different areas and growing on that side. This is one of the first trellises I ever built or made myself. I used a flimsier copper wire, and I had to loop it twice, so I don't like it, but at the same time I don't want to take the australis lisa off of it and mess with it, because this thing's actually growing, so I tend to just leave it alone. It's under a really good grow light, one of my best grow lights. I have a Barrina T10 stand light where it stands up. I have that in front of my Splendid, and then this sits off to the side and gets some of the light from that light, which it's a tremendous light. one of the best lights you can buy. If you're looking for a light, I can highly recommend the Barrina T10. And another one I'll recommend while we're talking about it is one you wouldn't expect, and they're a little bit more expensive, but it's a Fluval AquaSky. And I had originally purchased this light for our fish tank, which we no longer have. And lucky me, once we got rid of the fish tank, I got to use that for what it really should be used for, is plants. So if you ever need something a little different and you want something that really works and that's very programmable, it comes with a nice app that runs through Bluetooth that you can program in different settings, so you can set your greens, your reds, your blues, your white lights. All of those different things are part of the settings, so you can really set it up the way you need it to for your plants. And I actually leave mine at blue light all night long, so it's kind of like a moonlight setting. But I can highly recommend that light. It's growing. It's actually, I don't think you can see it here, but my luxurians here is one of the lights that's underneath, or one of the plants that's underneath that, and they love that light. So if you're looking for something a little different and you're okay with spending a little bit more, because I think they're like $170 for a light, that's one I'd highly recommend. Once again, Barrina T10 stand-up light is really great. I tend to like the Barrina lights. I've tried Manios lights and some other lights like that. Sansi makes good lights as well, but Barrina is by far the best lights I have. So I can highly recommend their T8s. I like the V-shaped design in the T8. Just puts out a wider swath of light for the plants. But anyways, I'm getting distracted. Let's go back to the plants. So this one, Miro absolutely hates, but I actually absolutely love this plant and definitely will always have it in my collection. This is the Hoya australis lisa. Just a gorgeous plant. So there you have it, 6 plants that I have in my collection because Miro told me I had to, and 1 plant that I have in my collection and he absolutely despises. So tell me, if you watch Miro, and if you don't, I don't know what's wrong with you. Tell me down in the comments what plants you have in your collection because Miro suggested them to you, and any plants that you have in your collection that Miro hates but grow really well for you, because I know that's how plants are. I have philodendrons in my collection that grow like weeds, but other people say they don't grow at all. And I have ones that anthuriums or philodendrons or ficus that I can't grow worth anything, but other people say they're easy. The thing that just came to my mind when I was thinking about that is string of turtles, which everybody claims is the easiest plant in the world to grow, but I can't get to grow more than a couple of inches worth of string of turtles before they dry up and rot, or they wilt away and they've never been seen again. So anyways, it's the plant world, and we know that it's different for everybody, and everybody has their favorite plant that just grows like gangbusters for them. So these are the ones that are growing in my collection. Fortunately, most of them are growing really, really well. But I have them because I watch Miro, and I really am a big fan of his, and I like what he does with plants, and especially Hoyas. And I look forward to what he's going to get next and bring that into my collection as well. So thank you once again for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below if you'd like, telling us what your favorite Hoya is from Miro's collections, and any other comments you have. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we will see you in the next video. Have a good one.